I'm Andrew Havlis. I am representing NAGT and CERC up in Minnesota, and I will be kind of running the back end of the webinar aspect of things and the technical aspects. But I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin now, who is going to be running and introducing our presenters here today.
Hello, everyone. So I'm speaking both to people at University of Florida right now and all of y'all who are fortunately registered for a webinar. So for those who don't know me, my name is Caitlin LaBelle. I am a master's student at University of Florida studying paleoecology of foraminifera. And I am the chapter of our I am the president of our chapter of the newly established AWG in Northern Florida. And so today we have a wonderful talk by three of our graduate students who are all PhDs. We have Megan, Caroline, and Carolina, who all have experience with field camp, both as a student and as teaching assistants. And so we have some great stories and advice for you guys. So first, we're going to start with Caroline.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caroline. So like Caitlin said, I'm a PhD student at the University of Florida. I'm getting my PhD in a sea level research group, and I'm trying to understand how quickly sea level rose last time it was as warm as it is currently, and how coral reefs responded to that sea level rise. But back when I was an undergrad, I went to a pretty awesome field camp. We went to Newfoundland and Labrador. It was actually through the University of Miami, so it was a long ways away. And this was definitely a good trip for needing to be well prepared, because there were a lot of different like different climates that we were exposed to, everything from nearly freezing and raining to sometimes it was sunny and warm depending on where we were. So good preparation was essential. And I've sort of found that like the packing list that you get when you're going into a camp typically just have like the bare minimum, and if you follow it, you will definitely be missing something. Okay, so I'll be talking about preparing for the field. The first thing, trying to get this to work, is that it's important what sort of bag you bring. So generally, if you're in the field, you're not going to have a nice sidewalk to roll your bag on pretty much ever. So it's really great to have duffel bags, and even better if they're sort of like convertible into a backpack, because that just makes getting to where we need to go so much easier. And they tend to be easier to squish in field vans too, which everyone will thank you for, because if your bags are taking up a bunch of room, nobody likes that. We're quite close this to change it. Okay, so the second thing is to remember that the sun is your enemy, and you want to, like, I'd say over prepare in terms of sun protection. I can't stress this enough, because like being sunburned is just the worst. And so like bring extra sunscreen, bring a good hat. If you've never worn what non-geologists would consider to be a super dorky, full brimmed hat, then get one and just learn to love it. Baseball caps are not going to cut it, and good sunglasses, like polarized if possible, can be really nice, because then you're not squinting when you're trying to write in the sun. Long shirts, long pants, but lightweight material is really helpful. And then then your sunscreen can get saved for like face and hands. I did field work in Australia for my PhD research, and the entire time there, I was just constantly like trying to protect myself, and I never got a sunburn. So yeah, no baseball caps, no tanning oil, and always reapply. And then in terms of physical preparation, definitely, I think you guys have field camps soon, right? Wait a few weeks. It's never too late to start. I think it'll really help everyone out if you're not exercising regularly at this point, to just go on a few jogs a few times a week. It's really important to get your like tendons, ligaments used to uneven terrain, because rolling your ankle in the field is the worst, or sometimes you've got even a worse injury, which Carolina will talk about in a bit. So really just sort of slowly working yourself up to getting used to uneven terrain, and sort of being physically fit is really important. And then you don't want to suddenly go into turbo mode 3 weeks out and then injure yourself from running too much, because that would also be really bad. And just in general, like, you know, try not to, maybe don't like go dirt bike racing 2 weeks before the field or anything that might get you injured, because it definitely ruins like your academic schedule too if you can't do field camp when you plan. Oh, sorry. So for shoes, this I can't stress enough. You really want to invest in some good hiking boots. I got some that were mid-ankle height, and that made a huge difference. The amount of times when I was hiking where I could feel like my foot start to roll, but then it was caught by a boot. Well, that happened all the time. So I can't even imagine if I'd just gone out in like some regular tennis shoes. Converse are probably some of the worst things you could wear besides high heels and, you know, your Yeezys. And then the most important thing also is to break them in before you leave. You want to walk around in them a lot. Take them on your hiking trail walk that you're going to use to get your ankles and knees ready. And then I really like the Climb as a website for buying field gear, because they have really quality outdoor gear, but like really, really good discounts. It's just stuff that other companies are trying to get rid of. And then also waterproof field boots are great too, because you don't want wet feet. And then also wool socks, like lightweight wool socks are important. You don't want cheap socks, and you want socks that like come higher than the top of your shoe, because any sort of blister will just, yeah, make your life miserable until it heals. So just try to avoid them in the first place. And then also in terms of more gear, you really want a large water bottle. Camelback backpacks can be really good too. It's really important to stay hydrated so you don't, you know, start to get dizzy or get a headache, and then you can't get as much out of the experience. And then you also want to make sure that your clothing is comfortable and that it'll last. So you don't really want to get like poorly made stuff that'll get a hole 2 days in. And, you know, don't be afraid of, you know, looking really ridiculous. I think that's the funnest part of going into the field. You get to wear your like zip off pants, and it's totally fun. And then stuff that's like quick drying for if you get caught in a rainstorm or you're sweating. And another thing I really love are shirts with like SPF built in. So there's a company called Coolabar that makes those sorts of shirts, but and so does like REI and all sorts of outdoors stores. So just anything that's lightweight will keep you cool, keep you out of the sun. You'll definitely enjoy having that when you're out there. And so the best thing to do for packing is to imagine yourself in all the various places you know you'll be going, and think of what a day in the field is going to be like, and think about everything you might need, like down to the detail. For some people, this kind of comes naturally if you tend to go into things over prepared, or you're that friend that always has like mints, Advil in their purse, you know, like the mom friend. But if you're not, you want to really like go through this a few times and make sure you'll know what you'll need. And think about any medical problem that you've ever had, or maybe something that your friends have had that you haven't had, that if it happened at school, you could just go to CVS and fix it. But in the field, you don't have that option. So just bring literally any sort of over-the-counter medicine that you can think you could possibly need, because if you have it, you probably won't need it. It's just Murphy's Law. So, you know, that includes really bad bug bites. You want bug spray, itch cream, all sorts of feminine problems, headaches, nausea, sore muscles, all those sorts of things. And then you want to make sure you have all the prescription medication you'll need for the whole time. So it might mean like, you know, calling your pharmacy and dealing with that with your doctor. Because a lot of times you can only get a certain time period at once. And so you want to start dealing with this like at least 2 weeks before you leave, because sometimes it can take a while. Because it's just never easy. And then also just with packing and gear, lightweight layers are your friend. Stuff that's not bulky and that, you know, you can easily just like have in your backpack for half a day when you need it, and it's not going to weigh you down or take up room. So that's, yeah, that's all I have on preparation. And then Megan will talk about things in the field.
You did that. You did that to me.
Where am I? You're good. Okay. I'm Megan. Most of you know me, but I did my field camp in 2015 at LSU, and then in 2017 and 18, I was a TA at field camp. for LSU. This year, this summer, I'll be PA for UF's field camp. So I'm a field camp veteran. I've been there a few times. But can't hear me? Oh no.
You can just fix it.
Oh, okay. So I also spent some time in the Chalice National Forest in Idaho doing my PhD research. Carolina and I work on the Pioneer Metamorphic Core Complex, so we spend a lot of time in the field. Got the life hacks. So self-care, Caroline pretty much got it on what we need to pack, but other things that this picture shows is the amount of shade or none. Like Caroline was saying, the sun is your enemy and you will need big hats. Rain gear, it can always rain and it sometimes will get cold after it rains, so you want to make sure that you have a rain jacket because if you're wet after, you'll just be wet all day. So water, I read online that it's recommended for 3 to 4 liters a day if you're hiking all day. So you might want to bring like 3 or 4 Nalgene's a day. You won't be able to refill it once you're in the field unless you have like a, I don't know, a water filter, but you might not have a water source once you're in the field. So I would recommend bringing all of your water into the field. You want to stretch before and after. It's just helpful. Breaking your boots. I also support ankle support because I have rubber ankles and I just fall all over all the time. So ankle support. And then another thing, just as the prescriptions, you'll need to pay your rent for, you'll need to get your bills done. So if you need to put enough money in your account now or something, if it's automatic, or if you need to get someone to be able to, bring in your check or whatever, you need to get stuff like that done because you don't know how much time you'll have on the internet or access to a phone. So get that ahead of time. So mental preparation. I was lucky enough, I didn't have too many bad partners. These are my best friends in the field. But you're not always that lucky. You will have to deal with people that you don't like, and it's fine. But your partner's there for safety, so you should stay with them at all times. You don't have to necessarily work together geologically, but you should stay with them and come up with a plan together. You'll be away from home. You won't have that much personal space. Some people need it to, rejuvenate. I do. I need my own space, but you won't have it. So maybe bring a journal. I don't know. You won't have phone access all the time. So a journal could be a good way to let the stress out. Okay, so smokers, this is a lesser problem, I think, because of all of the electronic cigarettes, but a huge issue in the Western states is fire, and everything is super dry. So if you light up anything or throw a butt on the ground or something, it could easily light up. Just don't do it. A lot of the places that we'll stay at, you can't even have a bonfire or campfire or whatever. So just figure out something now. Yeah, that's it. And then academic preparations, I think Carolina will talk a little bit more about this, but things that you want to remember to bring: your fanny pack, your watch, a hand lens, a hat. Oh, messed up, got messed up. A buff is always good, so this is a picture of me where you will be going in New Mexico. The gnats were terrible. I have never been so frustrated trying to take a strike in the dip as I have been at yours truly, Rattlesnake Gulch. So I had a buff, I had leggings, and you can't see it right here, but I had a big hole in my leggings because of rocks. So don't bring your fancy leggings, not worth it. You'll get them messed up. So once you're in the field, you'll have a GPS probably. Yeah. So you want to know how to work those, because if you don't know how to, then you should practice. And then we'll tell you declination angles once we get to the field, but remember or make sure that you know how to change those. And other things like solar chargers and power banks. So I have a power bank that I bring with me everywhere. It lasts for 4 charges, so it's really helpful. And we're all going to be fighting for the chargers, so you should invest in a good one. Okay, so camping. Once you're camping and once you're in the field, you can't just drop your trash in a trash can or on the ground. So you need to bring like a little trash bag or something to keep in your bag. That includes like food trash, that includes feminine products, any kind of toiletries that you have. You don't want to put that, just leave it anywhere. You have to pack it in, pack it out. So you bring it in, and once you get back home for the day, you'll get your trash in the trash can. So this is my trusty hammer, but no hammers in the national park. So remember that. You don't want to get us kicked out of the national park. We'll be there for the last 2 weeks, I think. So just remember that. Baby wipes are great. You don't always have access to showers whenever you're camping. I would bring like 2 packs. Microfiber towels are my love. You can't like just bring all of the towels that you want and they're gonna get soaked. I think for the most part, you can probably bring 1 or 2, but whenever you're camping, you don't have anywhere to let it dry, so it's just gonna sit there and mildew. So microfiber towels don't do that as much. And deserts will be in a lot of them. They're not always only hot. Sometimes they're cold. If they're sleeping in the desert, you want to bring a hat because at night it gets really cold, and extra socks. So the extra wool socks are a good idea. Carolina, on to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. So most of you already know me. My name is Carolina Ortiz. I am a PhD student as well. I have done a lot of field work on different terrains, deserts, glaciers, mountains, tropical, rivers, even sea. So I want to talk about some of the things I think are very useful. In this case, I'm gonna talk about the academic part of the field. We are not in a trip, right? We are in a field trip, which is your field work, which is going to help you understand geology from where it is happening. So, okay, so field notes. This is something that every person handles in a different way, but there are some basic aspects that we should all like take into account when we have a field notebook. So these are pretty nice images on how to take field notes. We all get there at some point. So don't worry if in the first days your field notes are messy or you are not able to do a lot of interpretations when you're doing the field. So this is something that gets some practice. And like in the next slide, I'm going to present like some few aspects that will help you. Okay, so remember, the date is always important. You need to know it because when you are coming back from the field and you are writing a report or you're like using your notes for your research, you always want to know when was the day that you took that date. It's always good to I always like to put like the weather so that things sometimes help. Like you can write like it's raining, it's sunny. Sometimes those things help you like going through your notes and oh yeah, I remember I came early that day because it was raining or whatever. The location, so important coordinates or GPS points if you want. If you're using topographic maps, you can use like a waypoint number and just write like I'm in station 1 or stuff like that. Write the people that you're working with because field notebooks, they tend to get lost. Sometimes you are just hiking and your back falls and the field notebook just ends in a river, for example. Has happened. So just take the notes which the geologists that you were working with, and maybe as well they can write it with you, so you both can compare, for example, later notes if you want that. Okay, so what is important about the field notes is that first you want to make observations. You want to measure things You don't want to step into an outcrop and just, oh yeah, of course, there is a volcanic sedimentary sequence, or that's an anticline or a syncline, because you guys know that everything on the field is like can change in a few meters, right? Like you can start looking at some type of feature on your first stop, but if you walk 20 meters, things can change a lot. So start by making just observations, write what you measure, what you are observing, and then describe, describe, and describe. Other part, sketch. So whenever you do sketches, use colors, as that pretty image that I have pasted in there. Imagine if that image wouldn't have colors, it would be really different. Sometimes that things help us to understand also what structures are we seeing, what are we, where are we, so it's important. Okay, so take samples. If you take photos, always write the number of the photo that you're taking, because sometimes when the field camp and then we have in our cell phones like 50 photos and you're like, where was that? Like, yeah, it's pretty, but you never get to use the photo because you didn't write where did you take it. Yeah.
Okay, so everyone has Snapchat. You take a Snapchat, you use the text caption to label the photo, and you save it.
For example, modern tools. All right, so download Snapchat before you field camp. And then, well, at the end, if you have time, make a brief resume from the outcrop where you were. This is the moment where you make an interpretation when you're in the field. Of course, after you come back, you'll be doing some other interpretation, but this is as well an important part. So this is a really nice sketch that I would also like wanted to show you. So the importance of the orientation in this sketch. So it says looking east. Sometimes you just say this is east-west, you write the letters. Use a scale always. It doesn't have to be a scale bar. They use, for example, a house in their sketch, so that's fine. Remember annotations. So what I normally do is to write my strike and dip data at some point on the layer that I am measuring. Label those measurements, be consistent with your data. If you are working among yourselves and everyone is taking strike and dip data, that is fine. But there's some other people that used to take dip directions and dips, as I do. So just like consider to maintain consistency in what are you writing in your field notebooks. And yeah, again, colors. Okay, so this is the, for example, how to sketch. So this is where you want to get, like the last one, right? This would be a sketch you make the first time you're in the field, maybe the second one, but at this point, at your third, fourth year of geology, you should be able to do something that is really showing everyone the geometry of what you're looking. So these are just some folds that are in the outcrop, but there can be other types of field sketches, right? So they are always changed according to the geology like expertise area that you're working on. For example, if you are used to work with people that do stratigraphy, what is the most important in a stratigraphy study? So your stratigraphic column, where you are working with thicknesses, which are very important, and grain size, right? So that is most important for the stratigraphy. But when you are working with a structural geologist, do we really care that much about grain size and all of that? This would be something more useful for structural geology, right? Like the measurements, the structures that you're seeing, faults. So it all changes. So that's just some tip that I wanted to show. This is another thing. So topographic maps are always useful. You don't always have a GPS, so it's really important to learn to use how to read them, learn how to map with according to the rule of these, which is really important as well. And Megan and I, we learned last summer how to use a really cool tool that is called Gaia GPS. And I guess there's another tools like that that are available to people to use. So this is an app that you can download on your cell phone, and that application allows you to download all topographic maps that you want, and they as well have their own topographic like model. So it's really cool because actually you can save waypoints there, you can add photos to your waypoints. So it's actually really awesome. You can't do lines or map with that application, but it's something that will help you to at least get to know where you are. It doesn't matter if you have a cell phone service, but what is important is that you download the map where you are before you lose signal. But it's really amazing, this application. Okay, so I was gonna sampling. So as well, sampling varies according to the intention of the samples. So if you're going to take a sample for maybe making a thin section afterwards, a sample this size is fine, is enough. If you're gonna sample something for structural analysis or polymagnetism, you want to orient your sample, and people with expertise in this will help you, or your professor, your TA. Sample for geochemical analysis, we all want to sample the freshest rocks, but sometimes it's not really possible where we are. So just try to make your best effort in this. And if you're gonna sample for geochronology or mineral separation, you do want big samples. So it's not the same to bring a sample like this, where you will end up with a really tiny fraction of zircons, than having 1 kilogram of samples where you will be really able to look for your zircons or whatever mineral you're looking for. So this is like some things that you can take advantage of. Okay, so as the other girls have talked about, we have to prevent all types of things. It starts with the sun prevention, and we also have to prevent about other possible accidents that can happen during the field, because the field is an area where we are exposed to a lot of dangers, and we can control how to not fail into a bad situation. So what I will recommend, well, I don't know if maybe Caroline or Megan want to like also talk about this. So these are like 3 points that I consider important. Do not walk alone. You can fall, you can get lost. I had a friend who fell in the field. She hit her head, sorry. She was unconscious for about an hour, and no one knew about her until we went back to the field station. Oh, 6 p.m., where is she? Oh, wasn't she with you? No. Oh, okay. So we had to come back in the night to look for her. She had fallen like 5 meters to a slope, and she started to walk and look for people until she found like some farmer around that helped her. So these things can happen. So always, if you're really someone that walks slowly, tell the person that is in front of you, like, hey, like each 10-15 minutes wait for me, or always carry a whistle. That is also useful if you're like in danger, someone will listen to you. Come back to the field station with sunlight. So we all are students, and we know that we are like behind our professors. If our professor doesn't like to come back before sunlight, just like try to talk to him and tell him it's important to not be walking in a dangerous place when it's the night. And anyways, have your headlamps with you, always in your backpacks. It's always useful. I think it's always useful to have emergency food, headlamps, cell phone battery. So don't be on your cell phone during the field all day and, oh, I don't have battery, because you never know what can happen. And then you will need to call someone or find yourself, even if you want to use your topographic application or whatever. And an emergency contact. So that's something that you should all think. Save all of your numbers during the field, so you can contact anyone when you are feeling threatened. Do you guys want to add something? Prevent. Okay, so the wilderness. You have to take into account where you are, okay? I'm from Colombia. I have never been in a place with bears before coming here. What were places where I did field camp? The common threat was snakes, possible small cats, jaguars, stuff like that. So it changes, right? So in this case, you will probably be close to bear countries. I don't know, like you have to ask. And always like ask the people that is from there around, like, hey, what's the time where bears come down? What do you do? Grizzly bears, black bears, we all know that it's like a different thing you have to do when you find them. So for example, Megan and I, we do work in Idaho, and we always work when we are camping. We have our bear barrel. Bird spray, yeah, and a bird barrel to hide all of our food and toiletry away from our tents when we are camping, because you always have to prevent. Even if no one has seen bears around for 8 years, well, this could be the year where bears are coming, right? So always try to prevent this situation. And snakes, what I've been always recommended by my biologist friends is that you should think that all of them are poisonous. You don't have to play with, oh no, I think that's not poisonous, let's take a selfie. No, all of the snakes are poisonous. You don't want to mess around with them. You guys, most of you, I know you are from Florida, so you encounter these kind of things very often. Well, gators and all of that. You can read about that on the internet. I don't know about them, but please be careful. Okay, rivers and sea. So the field camp is not a place to learn how to swim. So if you don't swim, don't go to the rivers, don't go to the sea. Okay, I don't think your professors are going to be taking care of you all the time. There's places where you will be able, in this case of the UF, you're able to go to a river and just like refresh. So just be careful. If you don't feel safe, if you see that there's like landslides close or something, just don't go there. So be aware as well of tides whenever you're working close to a beach. I've done work close to beaches, and sometimes you think the tide will give you enough time to work in a place that is like apart from the shore or whatever, and you go there and then the tide rises and then you have to swim back. So imagine yourself swimming back with your backpack. All of that is not fun. So be aware of tides. And at present with rain and rivers, what I have learned on these years doing geology is that it's really important to watch out for the color of the stream, of the river where you're working in. So maybe this does not apply for you guys too much during the summer in New Mexico. I don't think it will rain so much, but whenever you're doing field work and you see it's raining, not maybe where you are, but maybe you see really like dark clouds and that they are approaching, see the color of the river. If it changes from crystalline and it's already eroding material, there's something big coming. So you have to run and come back. Oh yeah, lightning. So as well, if you're working in high areas and you are listening to thunder and you're watching lightning, maybe you guys know how close it is, right? So 1 second will be around 3 kilometers. Yeah. So you don't want to get to the second in between the lightning and the thunder. You want to be at least like 3 seconds apart, so you are safe. So always take that into account.
And throw your hammers.
Oh yeah, don't be like when he's waiting for the
Yeah.
and get away from the tallest person. I'm lucky I've never been the tallest person, but you never know. Okay, and the last thing, I think there's just one last thing that I wanted to add. So even though we will try to prevent all of these things, and you hopefully will remember everything that we told you, the accident will happen, okay? So make sure that you carry some first aid kits. It doesn't matter if your professor do not have them. We know that there's some in the UF bands, but if you are in another field camp and no one has one, it's important that one person at least takes responsibility for this, because you never know when you will have to use them. So it's not the common first aid kit. Sometimes these wilderness first aid kits bring more things that will help you, like for bites. What do they have?
Cold packs.
Yeah, cold packs. I've seen, yeah, for heart allergies, for example, they bring sometimes if it's really a good first aid kit, they can bring an EpiPen, because you can discover you're allergic to some type of insect during the field, so be aware of that. But these are maybe important things. You should consider having tweezers, because whenever you're in the desert, you will have things stitching in your hands, legs, but you never know. So carry tweezers, a thermometer if you're feeling fever, antibiotics, bandage, gauze, antiseptics. I've made use of an eye patch before. So it's important, yeah. You never know when you're hammering, and a little tiny piece of rock can scratch your eye. So yeah, just put everything. Like if you have a space, just put everything, because maybe you will use it, okay? So yeah, that was like all we wanted to share with you.
Yeah, so, okay, you're good. So thank you guys. So we actually are gonna open it up for questions now, both from our listeners in the webinar and for people here. I did see one question while you were talking for Carolina during field notes. The question was, do you have any success rate with tablets, or would you recommend using tablets in the field for field notes?
I have never used them. I know Megan has.
Yeah, so I have used the tablet before. It's good, but you have to remember things like they get overheated and their battery doesn't last as long as you'd like it to. So you should always have a notebook, regardless of if you have a tablet. You should always have a notebook with you. Tablets are useful, but you should also check with your school rules. I don't know how lenient they are.
Okay. And just in case you guys didn't hear, so Megan suggested that they're good, but there's a lot of issues with overheating, probably battery charge as well. And generally field books are just a better method, and some programs may not even allow a tablet. So does anybody in our group have a question about field camp?
We're ready.
I have a question, guys. What do you do for the ladies in here? What do you do? Oh, here we have a chat. Wait. Someone asked, what type of notebook would you recommend? So just speaking from my experience of being in classes that are structured similar to a field camp, I actually use Write and Marine. It's kind of expensive, especially for a poor student. But it's just, I don't know. My first field trips, I didn't use Write and Marine. I did normal stuff, but it really became a pain when I got rained on frequently. And so I for a different trip switched to Right in the Rain, and it just made such a huge difference. Would you guys recommend the same? Or yeah, so we all kind of recommend Right in the Rain. How do you keep your laptop safe in the field? Couldn't tell you. I think none of us would really actually recommend, like if you're actually hiking, bringing your laptop into the field. But at home, like in your tent, maybe at night, you can perhaps put it in a garbage bag. I've done that for when I'm walking in the rain in Florida. So we have, what type or brand of tents and sleeping bags would you recommend? I think generally, and of course I'm also looking at Carolina and Megan here, generally tents are going to be provided by your program. No, I'm lying. So what brands do you guys recommend?
So I always think REI has everything. They can't do wrong in my eyes. My tent is a Sierra Design. I love it. It's great. You will need a
You're good. No, I just want to make sure they know.
You will need a rain fly. And even if you are in like the sand dunes, things will get into your tent. So you will need a rain fly. You suck it up and buy one. What was the other thing? Sleeping bag. North Face for mine. Oh, yeah. Hello again. I like my North Face sleeping bag. It's called the Cat's Meow. It is the best thing. It's great. They've been making it for years. I think it goes down to like 30 degrees, so it's not super cold weather, but for most things it should be good. My sleeping bag, for those of you that didn't hear, my tent is Sierra Designs. I love it. It's great. It's not too expensive, but REI can help you with all of your tent needs. You should go there.
So I have a tent. I have a tent. I won't say the brand, but I don't like it that much. It's good. Yeah, well, super brand, but I don't want to, legal thing here. So the tent said it was 4 seasons. I think it works for 2. So you have to test that. This tent has a lot of mesh. So what I would recommend is to really go to the store. I bought it online. I'm not an online buying person, but I did that. And it has a lot of mesh around. So I would say that's a summer, spring tent. It gets really cold. So what I did was to buy a really good sleeping bag to like prevent any hypothermia. The sleeping bag, it's mountain hardware. Yeah, it's a really good one. It gets like till like -15 Celsius. So I am good with that through all of the year. Yeah, so just be careful with the tent that you buy. Like I would not recommend this one, but yes, just unless you are not planning to do any future field work, if your thing is not the geology field like part, it's fine. Like for a summer field camp, you're fine with that 2 seasons tent. Do you guys have any other questions?
Yeah, so since our group doesn't have any questions, if anyone else from the webinar does, please let us know. My question for you girls and for the girls out there is, how do you function if you get your period in the field? It's gross, but have you ever had this kind of problem? What do you do to prevent it?
I'll take this one on.
Okay.
I don't know if I should be telling y'all my life hack for this, but what I did my year field camp as a student is I just took my birth control pill throughout the whole thing, and I didn't get a period. You might spot or whatever, but maybe talk to your doctor before you do that. I don't know what the medical thing is about that, but it can't be too bad. But yeah.
I have a cup and I enjoy it. I don't know.
Oh yeah, the Diva cup is great.
I haven't been to
Sanitary.
Yeah, I do not. I haven't done that, but if you are okay with tampons, it's okay, but always like remember to be very hygienic. So have some, how do you call that gel? Hand sanitizer. Like, don't risk that. Okay, so if you're going to use it, don't go with the hands that you've been hammering with and then apply that. No. And as for cramps and all of that, yeah, it's bad if you have. I don't personally. I don't know if you, but my friends who have cramps, you all have to go to the field next day or whatever. So just try to like talk to your group with you're working with, like, hey, like this is happening. Maybe it's like more comfortable between women, but as well, like if you're working with your male partner, just tell him, because maybe you will walk slower, you'll be angry, you'll be sweaty, you'll want to go back, and it's just 11 a.m. But it will happen. For these long field seasons, you will be out there at least like 40 days, 60? How much? 6 weeks. Okay. So consider that some of you will get it twice. If you're lucky, just once. How? I don't know. So yeah, just that's a really good question. So yeah, it's important to like prevent or just think ahead of time. If you're like attached to a brand of tampons or of pills, yeah. So buy them beforehand, because you can be like in the middle of nowhere and they can have just like their local product and you never know like what is that? So do they? Oh shit. So yeah, plan ahead. It's important.
Okay. Yeah, Maria.
How do you deal with altitude?
So we've been asked, how do you deal with altitude sickness? And I've been given this signal. So I think water. So drink water for sure. That's always been the advice I've been given, is drink lots of water is part of it, more than you normally would. Don't drink so much that you get sick though. I've done this on my field trips. Do you guys have any other advice for altitude sickness?
Yeah, so you think you have it? Or do you know that you have it?
I mean, I've never been like
Just in
anywhere
case.
other than Florida. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's medicine.
So, yeah,
if you
like
really need.
what people do when hiking, it's usually to get used to the different altitudes, right? So like you have an advantage that you will be just traveling from by plane from 0 meters above sea level to 2,000 something. You will all ride there, so you'll get used to it. The problem arrives when you fly to a place and then you're like 3,000 meters above sea level, and that's bad if you have never been. So what hikers do is like to do one field day, 1,000 meters, then you can rise another 500, come back, rise 1,000 and come back. Like always like manage that, because for people that come from these type of areas, yeah, it can get bad. So it's like if you were like in the Himalayas climbing or something. Just like
Basically.
yeah, basically.
There's
But it's just different. Yeah. So yeah. Let's go.
So we're getting close to the end of our time, but does the webinar have any more questions? But if not, we have our people here who might have questions as well. You guys can see the screen if there's questions. So, okay. Well, I think this has been really productive. Thank you, Carolina, Caroline, and Megan for presenting. Feel free to get in touch with us if you guys have any more questions. That goes to everyone who's listening right now. And don't be afraid to contact your TAs and your professors if you have any questions. Nothing is more important than your safety and your comfort, so that you can focus on your education. It's a really amazing experience. Unfortunately, I was not able to do it, but I've been on trips, and I've had many people told me, yeah, I have not been on one. I've had many people tell me that it just makes you a better geologist. And so it's a really worthwhile experience. You know, have lifelong memories from it. So unless our webinar host has anything else to add, I think that is the end of our talk for today. And thank you to everyone who attended. So.